Thanks for joining us again here with Phillips Family Ministries. To learn more about their mission for God, visit phillipsfamilyministries.com. We are on mission with Phillips Family Ministries. We got Daniel Phillips here. We are going to be talking about the dad's perspective on homeschooling. Daniel's been a homeschool dad for 26 years, correct?
Correct.
All right. So, Daniel, you want to open us up with a word of prayer and perhaps a passage of scripture?
Yes. Let's pray first. Lord, again, thank you that we can come before you and glorify your name through making these videos and maybe being a help to someone that's going through what we're going through or what we have already been through, and to give encouragement and hope to those, Father, that are in the midst of life. And Father, we glorify your name, and we pray that you'd take today what we say about homeschooling and our thoughts on it and some of the things that you've taught us and the importance of it. And if you would lead others into this same path, Father, that you would teach them, but maybe that we can help them not to have some of the same struggles that we had. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I want to
Go ahead.
Okay, I wanted to speak to homeschool fathers mostly. I know there's going to be homeschool mothers listening, and we just appreciate the role of homeschool mothers. When people ask where kids go to school, I'll say, well, we homeschool, and sometimes I'll say, really, Jenny homeschools. And you know, I say that tongue-in-cheek sometimes, but on the most part, that is true. She does the lessons, she does the teaching. But on the other hand, though, my role as a father, a homeschool father, is just as important as the mother's role, as Jenny's role. And fathers, if you're a homeschooling father today, your role is just as important as your wife's role. And it took me years to come to that conclusion, because I thought, well, I really don't have a role. I give them permission to do it. But I found out that's not true. That's not true. Justin, you're a homeschool father also, and you're much involved with your children, as I am with mine, because the God-given role, the scriptural role of the father is that of leader. A lot of people either don't understand this or don't agree with it, but God has given roles. God has given different positions in every aspect of life, and it is Christ the head of the family, Christ the head of the church, of course, Christ the head of the family, the father under Christ the head of the family.
Absolutely.
And it follows suit, as I think Justin talked in a different video about that, what God has given. So I want to just encourage you today, if you are the homeschool father, and also even the mother today that would, and some of you all look at me playing with this phone and you're thinking, here he's giving us instruction and he can't even use modern technology. And that is partly true, but I used it instead of the Bible so I could turn quicker today. I'm going to read you some verses out of the Amplified Bible. If you're not familiar with the Amplified Bible, check that out sometime. I find it a big help sometime in understanding some words. They uses different words and will help you, but that's another story. But I want to read you one verse out of Isaiah 64 and verse 8. And just for one thought, I'm not going to preach you a sermon on Isaiah, but this verse, it says, "Yet, O Lord, you are our Father. We are the clay, and you are our potter, and we are all the works of your hands." That first statement, "Yet, O Lord, you are our Father." Isn't it amazing that most of the Scripture when we think of God and the Godhead, what's it mostly called? God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit. We're talking family language here. We're talking God the Father, and I think that's amazing that He gives us that term, and we could preach sermons on just that thought that God is our Father, and but I just want to start there, because God values fathers. Now, we live in a world, and again, this is a great thing to be maybe debated and talked about another time, but fathers are looked down upon in this world and world system that is controlled by the devil, by evil men. They hate the role of father.
Well, we can look at how he's portrayed in media.
It's yeah.
Homer Simpson is the epitome of the father,
Yes.
according to this world, right?
Yes, that is, and I did have that thought in my mind, but I've lived long enough to I'm not a TV watcher, but I remember a lot of the old programs way back, and funny programs, and mostly clean family programs. But if you'll really study them, they really made the father look like a buffoon, right?
Absolutely.
And it started a trend that has, and it's all because this world and the world system really hate God, and they hate His order of things. But fathers, keep heart in knowing that God has given you the role of father for a reason. And thank God for the role of women and the role of mothers. It's a great role, and God is using mothers. As a matter of fact, the homeschool movement would not be where it's at today.
Oh, absolutely.
If it wasn't for the mothers. But fathers, I want you to know you are important. I've got a funny thing I want to do. So I want to show you the two roles, how people think about the roles of homeschool mother and homeschool father. And I hope you can see my picture. I hope it's not glaring there. This is a picture of a beautiful mother, or I'm sorry, a beautiful bride. That's how, when we think of homeschool mothers, this is what we think of. And then here is what we think of homeschool fathers. Can you all see that? Jenny's directing me to where she can see it the best. How's that, Jenny? So you all see that we have the picture of a bride in her wedding dress, that we see a picture of a man, or I'm going to call him the groom here, clothed only in a barrel. Can you all see that, hopefully? I'm going to tell you the story behind that. I was talking to a preacher one day, and I can't remember if it's the man that actually did the wedding for me and Jenny. But anyway, as the preacher was talking about what to wear at the wedding and all of that, and how the groom was going to be portrayed. And that preacher made the statement, said, "Oh, it don't matter what the man wears." Said everybody's eyes are going to be on the bride, and said it don't matter if a man wears a barrel, as you see in cartoons. So that's where that come from. But I do want to say that this concept in homeschooling is wrong. The father is important. The father does have a real role. And I'm going to read you just a few other scriptures to, I think, back that up. In Psalm chapter 1 and verse 8, again, this is out Amplified. It said, "My son, hear the instruction of your father. Reject not nor forsake the teaching of your mother." All through the scriptures, you see this concept that the father is the teacher. And I think you already talked about that when you was interviewing Jenny on homeschooling. But the father is a teacher, a very important teacher. And Jenny already brought out in her video that she made earlier that, parents are the first ones that are the teachers of children anyway. We teach them how to walk, how to talk, hopefully how to be silent sometimes. But Proverbs, and I think I've got 3 or 4 verses just in Proverbs that talks about the instruction of your father. So God has put this in here that we know that He has given us the role as a teacher. And a lot of the things that I know, practically and scripturally, I learned from my earthly father. And I'm sure you learned so much from yours. Chapter 4 and verse 1, it says, of Proverbs, says, "Hear, my sons, the instruction of your father, and pay attention in order to gain and to know intelligent discernment of spiritual matters." And that's a mouthful, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Let me read one more out of here. It's there's chapter 13. See, why I use my phone, I can turn a lot quicker. And it is verse 1. "A wise son heeds and is the fruit of his father's instruction and correction." So we do have a role to be teachers. One more is, I'm looking over here at my notes, sorry. Proverbs 15:5, it said, "A fool despises his father's instructions."
Absolutely.
And so we do have an important role, and I'm gonna quit talking with one more verse, and it is 1 Thessalonians chapter 2 and verse 11. Take me a second to find it here. 1 Thessalonians 2 and verse 11. It says, "For you know how, as a father dealing with his children, we used to exhort each of you personally, stimulating and encouraging and charging you." Now, Paul here is talking about the church of Thessalonica, and he said, "For you know how we deal with you. You know how you deal as a father deals with his children." Of course, he's speaking here how God deals with his people, how God deals with his church, and how does he do that? It says, as a father dealing with his children, we used to exhort each of you. Now, I think this is not Paul's main message, but I think Paul's illustration here is showing the role of a father is that we exhort our children, and that we stimulate them, and that we encourage them, and we charge them. And that's an important role, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And so, fathers, this is not you. You have an important role, and use that role, and years to come, after you're gone, your children will look back and say, "I had a father that taught me and that was interested in my education."
Yeah, there can be 2 different ditches that we can drive over into. So many times we'll drive over into the ditch of, nope, that's her realm. That's her job. That's where she is serving. And we have nothing to do with it. And what would you tell the father? You've already spoken a little bit to that. But our job is to be hands-on. It's not going to be in their face like mom's role is, but speak a little bit more to dad being hands-on.
Yes, well, I know in our situation, God allowed us to Jenny to stay home, raise the children, and I know that doesn't work for everyone. I know everyone cannot do that. God did allow us to do that, which allowed Jenny to focus her time and attention in educating the children. And sometimes God puts together opposites, and God puts a man and a wife together in marriage to complete each other. There's some things that I'm good at, but it's not Jenny's cup of tea, or it's not her place of expertise, or just opposite. And most of the time it is opposite. Jenny's is really good on things, and I can barely get by. But we complete each other. And for us, in doing the actual teaching and the planning and the homeschooling, Jenny is far better at it than me. And also, all of these years, I really did have to focus on making a living. I did have to focus on a job and all the responsibilities of all of that. And we just worked together. And Jenny's role in homeschooling was, of course, I couldn't have done it without her whatsoever. And fathers never feel bad that that you have to focus on your job, you have to focus on making a living. You are still involved with your children, but never think that since God has taught us to instruct our children, that it cannot be done as a team also. And your wife is valuable in teaching your children.
I know some guys can go off in that other ditch where they want to be overbearingly controlling of everything. I can lean into that ditch, but since we've homeschooled, that's the realm where I look at my wife and I say, she'll ask my opinion. What do you think about this curriculum versus this curriculum? I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, you've done all the research. I trust your judgment.
Absolutely.
How much do our wives need that from us to say, you've put the work in, you've made this decision, and I trust your judgment?
I think it has to be. You have to be that encouraging father that can say to your wife, I trust you with this. And I think that your wife is going to want to hear that and to know that you trust her and that she can do it.
Absolutely.
And a lot of times they're going to be able to do it better than us men.
We're not used to being the cheerleader. In this homeschooling realm,
that's true.
Mom is usually the running back.
Right.
She's the one going for the touchdown, and we're the ones as dads shaking the pom-poms.
Right.
And that's a hard role for us to take sometimes because we do want to be the guy running for the touchdown. But we got to realize how God has gifted us differently in order to make a family unit.
Right. And two, sometimes a mother's touch on a lot of different things, the kids respond to it better. And I think they do sometimes even with the teaching and the lessons and all of the plans. Like I know when my children be outside playing and one of them fall and bump its head and they run in the house screaming and crying, they pass me up and go to Jenny.
Yeah.
So sometimes they have that little different aspect, a little different insight on things, and the children are going to respond most of the time to the mother's actual teaching more than the father's.
And that makes a great analogy for going back to missions. God has gifted moms and dads differently. God has gifted some to be goers and some to be senders.
It's true.
God has gifted some to be pastors. God has gifted some to be deacons. God has gifted some to teach Sunday school. God has gifted some to be in service ministry, in all kinds of different ministries. It doesn't mean we're not all equally valued in His eyes. We're all valued as the redeemed of Christ. But we have different roles. And we need to slide into our spiritual gifts serving in the body. We need to slide into our gifts ordained by God in the family unit, because when dad tries to be mom, he don't do a great job. When mom tries to be dad, he don't do a great job. And when the kids are running the show, the family's in chaos.
Right.
So finding our role in God's ordained plan through His Word is where we will all thrive. And that's what we want to do,
That's
right?
really
We want to thrive.
Yes.
How can you maybe encourage dads out there, whether they're homeschool or whether they're not homeschool, to be the man who causes their family to thrive for the glory of God?
Because of a role, or God-given role as the father, as the leader, we really are going to set the temperature of the home. We're going to set the pace for the home. That's the way God intended it. And, learn to walk with the Lord yourself and pray for your family. And God will give you wisdom. If you say, Daniel, I don't know what I'm doing. And first thing I'll say is get in line.
Yeah.
Because the rest of us don't either. And the other thing I'll say is God will give you that wisdom. He'll give you that understanding how to lead your family. And I will say, one of the things that I've learned, I've come into parenting without a manual other than the Word of God. I will say that is a good manual for raising children. And I made a lot of mistakes. One thing, I was really harsh, and I was not understanding of the differences between women and the differences in children. And I will say, lead with grace. One thing I've learned is lead gently, and lead even though we know our kids are going to mess up because their parents messed up, right? We're going to make mistakes, and they're going to make mistakes, and learn to deal in grace and deal in love. And one of my problems, Justin, when I was younger, maybe I still haven't completely learned this lesson, but I'd make a mountain out of molehills. Have you ever done that?
Yeah.
And let's learn not to do that. And our children one day will say, Daddy dealt in grace, and we learn the grace of God that way.
Absolutely. I can't think of a better way to close than with the grace of God, that He shows us so much grace in when we're serving Him, and may we show others grace to reflect that which we've been shown. What you were just saying made me think of, we need to show grace to our kids. They become a Christian. Sometimes we can automatically think they're supposed to be at the same level of sanctification we're in.
Yeah.
No, they're not. They're baby Christians. No matter what age they are when they get saved, they're a baby. They're an infant in Christ at that moment. And we can sometimes forget the grace that we've been shown so much.
Absolutely.
So I did, as you were explaining that, there was a scripture that came to mind, and it's 1 Corinthians chapter 16, verse 13. Be watchful, stand firm in the faith, act like men, be strong. And then 14 says, it's wonderful that it follows up 13 like that. Let all that you do be done in love. So I think that's a wonderful conclusion to this video. Daniel, do you have anything else you want to add?
I don't think so.
All right. Remember, guys, to click like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Visit phillipsfamilyministries.com to see more how you can partner with Daniel and Jenny on their journey to proclaiming the gospel to the people in Southeast Asia as well as here in America. And may God be glorified in that. Let's pray. Father, thank you for the time with Daniel, and as he has shown some light on what it means to be a homeschool dad, on how it means that you're to be hands-on, to be active. And he's shown us from Scripture that we are to be educating our children. And whatever alternate means we use, may that be to your glory. But education starts at home. It starts with Dad. And may you be glorified. In Jesus' name, amen.
Can I add one more thing, Justin?
Yes, you may.
Fathers, occasionally your wife needs a day off. So load them children up in the vehicle and take them away for the day, and let her have time there at home alone and to recoup. and or keep the kids there at home alone. Let her go on a day adventure by herself. She would really appreciate you for that.
Daniel, that is the greatest advice that any man could give another man. So be a man, act like men, be strong, right? Love your wife enough to get the kids away from her every once in a while. So thanks again, Daniel. This has been a great time.
Very good.
I hope you're edified by watching this and hearing this information from Daniel and from the Word of God. Y'all have a lovely day. Goodbye.